really just seems like there's so much going on in this offseason, at least in terms of like pieces being moved or maybe even being available, that this could be a very big offseason for the Islanders, again, outside of this first overall pick.
Yeah, and I think the best part is all this is going to happen within like the next week or so. Like we've been talking about the lead up to this for a long time. Islanders were not a playoff team, so their season ended in early April. Since then, we've been talking draft, free agency, GMs, reacting to all that. It's been a blast, but it feels like we're getting that Christmas Eve feeling the night before the big day. And as you said, or where we started, Mathieu Schaefer is a big part of that. I think, adding a 18-year-old who can skate like he can and has the potential that he does. I know someone was comparing him. It might have been his own coach in that video to some of the bigger names like Cal McCarr and Quinn Hughes. And that's lofty expectations, but that is franchise changing if those high ceilings hit.
You're right. If we hit a Quinn Hughes equivalent, look the frig out. Could you imagine either Quinn Hughes, well, not even either, both Quinn Hughes and Matthew Barzal buzzing up the wing or through the neutral zone? That changes the trajectory of how we not even just what the franchise could be, but how the franchise is, right? For the longest time, it's like we take our lunch pail to work, which is fine. But we're trying to do a little bit differently nowadays. The NHL isn't no longer like that. And so we're trying to do things differently. And you get a kid like that, assuming that's what he becomes, holy shit, look out.
Yeah, that changes the entire offense. And you think, well, isn't he a defenseman? What do you mean? But no, we've talked about the transition game being a big issue for the Islanders. And that's going from your defensive end and transitioning the puck and going into the offensive end. And he's projects to be really, really good at that. Obviously, TBD, right? We haven't seen him at the NHL level, but that's like the cherry on top almost. There's so much more when you dig even deeper than just the number one pick, which that in and of itself is awesome, by the way.
Exactly. And that's where it kind of, and maybe this is, how do I want to say this? I think this is more of this episode is what I mean, is me trying to manage my expectations through you all. Because I'm getting really, really excited about this offseason. And maybe you're on the same boat, so we can kind of commiserate here and help or get the patients to kind of help us here. It just feels like there's so much that could go right for these Islanders that we might go into the 25-26 season with not a whole new team, but at least a whole new outlook on this team, this organization. And I don't know if I'm biting off more than I can chew, or if I'm getting too excited.
No, I don't think so, because something I've said for a few weeks now, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that article from the New York Post came out where it's like the Islanders are going to pretty much run back a similar team. Mathieu Darche is going to make that many changes. No disrespect to the writer, like they do a fine job, but I just didn't agree with that, because I think someone who is a first-time GM and taking over a team is going to want to make their mark on this team, and they have a number one overall pick to do that. We've talked about the Shagans theory for a while, and there's been rumblings of the Islanders looking to make a move and trade up to draft James Higgins, and you have Mathieu Schaefer there too, which would be awesome. But Cal Ritchie, in my opinion, is going to be NHL ready this year. I'd be very, very surprised if Cal Ritchie is not on the NHL roster to start the year. You have potentially moving pieces in names like Noah Dobson and J.G. Pageau are two names that have been talked about a ton. And then, I don't expect them to be crazy active in free agency, but, we don't know. Maybe they clear up a significant amount of money and they're making a play on one of the bigger name guys. So, and again, that's July 1. It's 6:23 today, recording this. So all going to be happening within the next week or so.
Yeah. So you mentioned something there with Mathieu Darche wanting to put his own stamp, or maybe not him saying that, but you framing in a way where at some point he's going to want to put his name on this team. And at this point, he hasn't been able to, right? Like everything that he has done, at least when it comes to the playing squad, has been because of Lou. He hasn't been able to put his own stamp on this playing squad yet. Had to re-sign Kyle Palmieri, and is carrying maybe a lot of weight here. He didn't really need to do that, but gentlemanly thing to do, and he did it. Same thing with Adam Boquist. Not to say he wouldn't have re-signed them anyways. But so far, the squad itself remains a loose squad. So he's going to do something about it. And this is why it gets me excited, not just because of that potential, but it's just you keep seeing, you mentioned the Noah Dobson rumors, at least guys going out, but the guys available, it seems, at least in the market, we just saw Trevor Zegras get traded. We saw Mason Marchment get traded. Jason Robertson's name was floated around. Now, he might not be available anymore because of, the aforementioned Mason Marchment. But other guys have been mentioned. Jordan Kyrou's name has been mentioned. Then there's the free agents like Mitch Marner, Nikolai Ehlers, Brock Besser for the Brock Besser crowd as well. Like, those are a lot of names adding on to that first overall pick, maybe even James Higgins. And if not, at worst, you mentioned Cal Ritchie. Like, holy shit, how can you not get excited about next year?
Or even another one too. I've mentioned this. I've been doing a lot of Puckpedia GM, RIP in peace, cap friendly armchair GM. I missed that. But another one that I brought back was an old reliable Mathieu Darche. What if he takes a run at Isaac Howard? That's getting another first round pick in here. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets traded this week. There's a lot that can happen. I don't think, here's where I'm going to try to temper your expectations. Please. And I'm excited too, right? Like, I don't want this to be like, I'm not excited about the offseason. I just don't think we can expect everything we've talked through in the last few months to come true. Like, there are a ton of different options. And this is what at least we here like to do. We like to talk through all the different scenarios and all the different options, knowing that, hey, the chances of all these happening isn't true, but it's a storyline right now with the team. So let's talk about it. Maybe half of what we talk about actually happens, but there's a lot of moving pieces, even if it is just half.
Yeah. Okay. And I need that. I need that kind of like check back to reality type of thing. Like, we're not getting Matthew Schaefer, James Higgins, Jason Robertson, and who knows what other RFA defenseman type of thing to completely reshape the Islanders like that. And that's not really my expectation either, but I need that in terms of even just a Shagan scenario. I think that's quite likely to happen, but I do have to check myself back into reality going like, how true are all these rumblings actually? How true are they? Right? We keep hearing Boston's pick is in play. And like, well, we try to create the machinations for a trade, which makes sense to us, but who doesn't make sense to the Boston Bruins? Everything tells me this is happening. Every fiber in my body tells me that we were getting not only Matthew Schaefer, but James Higgins. And I feel like I'm setting myself up for failure. And I'm not looking forward to it at all.
No, I want that to happen. It'd be an awesome story, but I think you're in a spot where you're potentially setting yourself up for disappointment. And that I'm going to say I'm not going to tell you how to feel, but in the next sentence, I'm going to tell you how to feel. I don't think if you have a number one overall pick coming in, like, that's got to be enough to excite you. But I understand where you're coming from with this too.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back maybe as you're saying that, as I'm going through those feelings based off of what you're saying. Like, there have been a number of patrons saying, I don't care who we take first overall. We weren't supposed to pick first overall. So whoever we get is going to be candy. It's going to be gravy. It's going to be everything that we didn't have before. And we've already won the offseason just by the sheer fact of winning the draft lottery. And here I am wanting more. I'm like, well, now I want James Higgins getting this greedy, like 4-year-old mentality, throwing a tantrum in the store.
If you like that, make sure to subscribe to Up the Turnpike on Patreon for more exclusive New York Islanders content.